So you got those people that no matter what you do, they find a way to somehow like crawl back into your life despite you doing all this healing, all this clearing work, thinking through things, setting up boundaries, doing all that stuff. Well, we're gonna put an end to that today. In today's energy healing, we're gonna focus on overcoming enemies. Hey everybody, welcome back. This is Zach Luz. I'm your energy healer. In these videos, what I do for you is I scan you, I read your blocks, and then I help you clear up and shift the energy so that you can shift your life. So in today's energy healing, we're going to focus on overcoming enemies. In a minute, I'm going to pop up a couple numbers on the screen, let your intuition guide you to select one of those that's going to correspond with your particular reading. In the reading, I'm going to go into depth. Where did this come from? How are you inadvertently perpetuating the pattern? And I'm going to explain what you need to shift and let go of yourself so that everything can move. Plus, I'm going to do some energy healing for you specifically on your pattern. Since these are general readings, they're not as precise as a one-on-one, but they're still super, super strong. And yeah, just make sure that you're in a calm, meditative space. If you want, you can listen to this grounding meditation. It's optional. It's really good. It'll get you in the present moment. And then from there, you can go ahead and listen to your reading. So I'll go ahead and pop the numbers up now, and you can go ahead and let your intuition guide you. I'll see you in your reading. Hey, group one. All right, let's see what's going on for you guys. I'm noticing there's like a pattern of touch and go. It's kind of like that cat and mouse game. What you're doing is you're staying in this whole like enemy game. You're keeping them around because what it does is it helps you calibrate and understand where you are in relation. It's just like, it's kind of like finding your balance. So, funny example, but here's the metaphor. You know when you're drunk and you're like reaching? This is when you're really drunk. When you're like reaching and trying to find something solid that you can push against so that you can keep yourself up. That's what you're doing with enemies. That's the positive intention of you keeping this pattern around. Having enemies, having something to push against helps you clarify who you are, helps you know who you are, know who you're not. If you're drunk and you're falling over and then you have something to push against, then you can balance yourself. So you're kind of just using these enemies as a crutch. Because even though you don't like them, even though you can't stand them, even though you want them out of your life, even though you've done all these things, the benefit is you don't know how to balance on your own. You don't know how to be, okay, I'm not for this side. It's like, it's so much easier when you're just anti. They have this group or this group. And if you just go, well, I'm not this, therefore I must be this group, you still need that group in order to help you clarify. So that's the pattern, that's the dynamic. So how would that show up for you in your day-to-day? Let me see. It's just like a lot of communication, a lot of talking, texting, or even if you're not doing it directly with them, you're doing it about them. So you're just, it's like this, like this constant back and forth. So that's how it'll show up for you. So you're either always having to talk with them, deal with them, you are talking about them, they're just occupying space in your head. They're living rent-free in your head. So let's talk about where this pattern came from. All right, one sec. For the majority of people, this is a parents thing. You probably saw your parents doing the same kind of dynamic, either with each other, like in the case of like a divorced family, or it was normalized, like everybody in your family, that's just how you did it. That's just how like news circulated, was this, there's constantly that chatter just kind of like behind the scenes, or like that's how you saw your parents interact with the outside world. So it's either between the two of them, within the family, or with the outside world. And that's not every single person here, but that's the predominant pattern. You saw that, it became normalized for you. And then if you survive life and you just watch that, you just go, okay, that's going to be my behavior. I'm going to do that. I'll just copy and paste. So that's basically where it came from. Now, I don't want you judging yourself about that, because when you're really little, how are you supposed to make sense of the world? Like when you're 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years old, what are you supposed to do? It was a coping mechanism for you, because a 4, 5, 6, 7, or 8-year-old needs to have a way of making sense of their world. They need some stability. They need something to push against, to hold them. Because, at those ages, you're kind of falling over. So it was a strategy. It was an adaptive strategy that you picked up just so that it could help you get through life. So don't be making yourself wrong about this. And, it's fine if you want to change this dynamic, but there's no point in beating up on yourself, because if you hadn't done that, how else are you supposed to make it through life? So anyway, it wasn't like a single big kaboom trauma thing. It was more of like a drip, 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 drip. And then that just became your default mode of like how you go through life. So if people come into your life and then they try to do this big explosive, like, I'm going to blow up on you thing, when they are not getting their way or they're upset or whatever, you have this ability to just like kind of push them out there, and then you do the chit chat thing. So it's a very good protective mechanism. But the limitation of that is you have to have something to push against. You have to have enemies around to stabilize you. So what you're actually going to be working on in the energy healing that I'm about to do is stabilizing yourself on your own, so that you don't need opposing forces to push against you and give you that clarity. So if that sounds good, let's go ahead and go into that. So make sure you're not driving, but get your spine straight, relaxed state. Take a deep breath in, hold, out through the mouth. One more time. Release. Good. Alright, I want you to visualize a circle, a sphere around you, arm's length around you, and just expand yourself so that you're occupying that whole thing. And as you do that, I'm going to start working. All you got to do is sit back and just give me permission to do stuff, because I can't do it without your permission. So this one for you, it's just going to be navigating a very unfamiliar new pattern. That's all it is. And that's a little bit triggering to our survival brain, but it's fine. You'll be able to adapt to this just as easily as you pick this up. This one should shift like relatively easily for you. Okay, alright, that's going to do it for you, Group 1. Let me know how it goes in the comments, and good luck. See ya. Alright, hey Group 2, let's see what's going on for you guys. Alright, so you guys are being teachers. So here's how this pattern works. So what happens is you have enemies that come around you, and you basically know that you're of a higher order than they are. So then as a service to them, you're like willing to teach them. So you're willing to have them come into your space kind of to help them out. It's like, it's kind of like community service. So like one way that this might show up, you might have this about you as a person just in general. It's like you're always available to help people. Like if people are moving into a new place, you're like the person that goes like, oh, moving sucks, like I'll help you move. You're the person that like if you go out to a dinner with a bunch of friends, you'll pay a little bit extra. You're just kind of available for that type of thing. So then that shows up with enemies too, in that the only reason that those enemies are around you is because they know that they can get something from you, even if it's just them being triggered or upset or offended by or whatever. So since you're like of a higher order than them in whatever respect this applies to you. So let's just say, for example, with fitness, let's just use that as a metaphor. So if you're really, really fit and then you're around a bunch of other people who like to hate on you or judge you and go, okay, well, this person is only fit, I think they're doing steroids, or I think they're doing some kind of thing, and you know, it's not legit, you know, maybe they're editing their photos or whatever. Like that's like the kind of enemy that you'd have. But there's a part of you that goes like, yeah, I remember when I was triggered in a similar way. So I'm willing for them to kind of like go through that development period, and you're willing for them to learn because they like try to say a couple of those things, and then you're just like solid in who you are, and then they just go, oh, I guess that didn't work, and I guess that's not the excuse, and oh, I guess maybe I just actually have to do it. Maybe I actually have to become like a much more disciplined person, a much more motivated person, a much more like just a person that's willing to overcome hard stuff. Like maybe I have to do all that stuff. This person isn't like taking a shortcut or, you know, cheating their way to the top. Maybe they're just doing it. So there's part of you that's lined up with that experience where you're just like, okay, you can come and you can learn that lesson through me. So that's what you're doing with enemies. It's not like you enjoy it, but there's like a noble part of you that's trying to, it's kind of like take care of them. So yeah, that's the pattern. So I hope that makes sense. So let's see where this got started for you. Okay, so keep in mind, this is a general group reading. So I'm looking for common themes and like what's the common blocks. So just take what resonates, leave what doesn't. But for this group, the majority that I see is you were raised in a family where it was really important to be nice, to be kind, to be generous, to be charitable, to be good, whatever good means. That's like where it started. So you had like that definition, and with whatever that definition was, like say we're a good family, then there's all these things that kind of got piled into that, like all these different associations. And you would see like, I don't know, you'd see a sibling doing something and your parents go, oh, that's good. And then you go, okay, I got to do that thing. And then you hear them talking about something else. You go, oh, okay, that's a good thing. I got to do that thing. And then you just start piling on all these different rules of what good means, to the point where now you're willing to like tolerate, you know, just really, I mean, it varies, but like really nasty behavior from other people, because it still fulfills that deeper intention for you to be good. So like even though you're enduring something that's like super uncomfortable, not at all your responsibility, and it's honestly like not fair to you, you are creating it because you still need to do all those things that satisfy that rule to be good. Because when we're younger, being good is basically what everybody in the group has subtly agreed. There's like this covert contract basically between the group of like, if you do all these things then you're good and then you get to belong in this group. When you were younger, if you didn't belong to that group, you got kicked out. And what happens to a 5-year-old that gets kicked out of their family? Not good things. So instead of going through that, you just decided, okay, I'll just be good and I'll deal with all this stuff, and you dealt with all this complexity, but then like you stack all these rules on top of each other, and then pretty soon you are also accommodating enemies. So that's where it came from. So the key thing here, don't start blaming other people. I know that that's tempting, but this is all satisfying your need to be good. So the more that you can let go of your need to be, and we'll just say like, instead of good, it's like validated by the group or groups that you want to be validated by. Instead of needing that, then you want to start like opening up to like, what's my own definition? Rather than like, okay, I have to do all these things that other people have told me, versus, okay, well, what do I feel? Like removed from everybody else's definitions. And that will bring you to like a higher form of good, rather than just like obeying all the rules that other people put on you that, you know, may be outdated, may no longer be serving you, and some of them may be great still. But it's important that you are making those decisions and you're deciding what that is. So that's how you got here. You just kind of like piled one rule on top of the next. So yeah, so now let's go ahead and clear that. Go ahead and get comfortable. Make sure you're not driving or anything. And if you are, pause this until later. Okay, go ahead, take a deep breath in. Hold your breath. Release through the mouth. One more time. Hold. Release through the mouth. Okay. And then I'm just going to start working on you and clearing out this pattern for you. So you just keep sitting there, breathing, and I'll do this stuff. So for this group, we're going to bring in like a new definition of like helping people. The metaphor is boats. So imagine it's dark, you're on near the coastline, and then there's a bunch of boats that are trying to navigate in, trying to make it to shore. Like you can go get in your boat and you can go around and you can go try to tell them like, hey, here's the map, here's how you get there, here, you're going to want to go this way, give them directions, you can point it out, you can have your flashlight, and you can be like, here, like, maybe you can try to follow me, but don't get too close, because if you get too close, you're going to crash into me. So just stay kind of far away, just try to follow me, and you have to account for the wind, and now you have to balance what's going on with the wind. It just becomes this huge complicated thing. So that's one way you can do it. What you've tried to do is you just go, okay, well, my problem is I need to get out of my sailboat. I need a speedboat. That'll really do it. And then you're speeding around from one boat to the next boat, trying to help everybody get in safely from the storm. But like, that's exhausting to you and uncomfortable. Or you can be the lighthouse, and then all the lighthouse has to do is it stands on the land and shines the light out for everyone. And as the lighthouse shines, every single boat can see where they're supposed to go, and then it's up to them to course correct so that they can make it in. It's up to them to navigate everything. You are there and you're helping thousands and thousands of boats, literally just by staying solid in your space, instead of having to get out of your boat and run around and do all that stuff. So that's the new way that it's going to work for you, where instead of you putting yourself into danger, putting yourself into discomfort and doing all this stuff to help them, you can help them by being that example. So I'm just going to work on you a little bit more, just really installing that pattern. So if your intention is to help people, think of those other people that have helped you, that they haven't gone and spent time with you one-on-one, like any of these, like, I don't know, pop business gurus or spiritual teachers or whatever, somebody that you haven't had the chance to have a one-on-one conversation with. Just think of how much them being an example has still served you immensely. And that's the model that you're going to start stepping into. And that requires that you let go of, getting into your speedboat and running around and trying to help everybody one-on-one. Like, if you do it from this standard, you can still have a profound impact on people, but it's not necessarily going to be validated by all the people and rules and whatever that you've imposed upon yourself to get yourself into the whole speedboat situation in the first place. So that's the pattern that I shifted you into. Moving forward, what can you expect from this? Let me see. Be prepared for people to be, disappointed in you. What that really is they're just like losing the ability to control and influence you. And you're just not going to care as much about, oh, am I being good or not? You're not going to be running off their definition. So what will probably happen is people will try to reinforce their definition, and then you won't fall into it as quickly as you used to and as automatically. You'll see it from a different perspective, and it's like kind of like you stop babying them and you just kind of like expect them to step it up and meet your standard. And that way of helping them, that is a way where you're not getting drained, where you can help a lot more people, you can have a lot better impact, it's much cleaner. And so just be aware of that. And if that stuff starts happening, you'll see it from a different perspective, and it won't like auto trigger you into reacting the old way. Just kind of see it from a more neutral perspective, and you'll go, oh, okay, I see. And then just let the new way come in, and you have to choose that. But if you do it once, it should be your new automatic behavior. You just kind of have to reconfirm the changes that we're making here, because ultimately you have free will, and I can push you into that direction, but you have to decide and like lock it in. So yeah, let me know how it goes. If you enjoyed this, please like, share, subscribe, do all those things, and I'll see you guys next time. Later. All right. Hey, group 3, let's talk about your enemies. All right, let's see what's going on for you guys. Okay, so group 3, you guys are pretty similar to group number 2. So if you feel drawn to that one, go take a look at that reading too and see if that resonates. But what I noticed going on for you guys is there's a curiosity that you have towards enemies, because it's like somebody that sees the world so different from you. You're kind of like, how did they get here? And then you're kind of tolerating that vibe around you. You're just like out of curiosity. So it's like a scary movie. Most people don't like being scared, but if it's like within a certain context and they go, oh, okay, I want to see the scary movie, I want to see what happens, I want to feel a little bit of that psychological thriller, because it feels like it's kind of a safe place. You're at a safe enough distance away, but you still get that rush. So having enemies around and on the periphery, you kind of get to learn of like what's that edge and what's that different way of doing it. It like satisfies a curiosity for you. I mean, obviously it's not worth it, and that's why you're here, but that's one of the positive side effects that you get from having enemies around. It just opens your mind, and it's just like, ooh, I wonder how that works. And you just kind of like, it opens you up and you learn. So this is a really useful pattern, because this is a way that you can take something that was really negative to you, and then you go, okay, well, how do I learn from this? And that's a really useful frame about, things that just kind of come in. So I totally understand how you got this going. So here's the metaphor. Just imagine like you're at college, and then you know how you can take like all these different elective classes. You could take astronomy, or you could take biology, or you could take math, or you could take business or ballet. Just take that and take it to like the nth degree, where you're just, okay, you could take child abuse 101 or horrible negotiation tactics 202, or you could like, so if that gets you curious, that might be one reason that you have enemies around you. So this pattern comes from a good place, where you were going through something hard, and then the way that you overcame it, you were just like, well, how do I learn from this? If you do that and succeed at that, then that can become a pattern that you rely on a little too much. The reason I said that this is similar to the prior group is because the prior group was like wanting to teach people. You're kind of like the opposite side of it, where you're wanting to learn, but you guys are also doing some of the same things as group 2. So if you feel called to it, go listen to that one. But that's basically one of the main patterns that keeps your enemies around. A way that this will show up for you is if you have friends that do crazy stuff all the time and you always happen to be around them. Like, you might not, I don't know, like drink too much, but you have friends that get so blackout drunk that you're just like, I don't know how he does it, man. And he has like this crazy lifestyle, and it's like, it's kind of exciting and fulfilling to you. So you stay in the vicinity of that stuff. So then that could lead to your friend having enemies, and now they're your enemies, almost like by association. So you're just open to that level of things. So what we want to do for you guys is close you off a little bit from all of that. So that's a choice, because there are times when it's like really beneficial to open up and learn all kinds of things, and you want to be open, but at other times you kind of want to close off a little bit, and that's just what I'm going to recommend that you do from here. If that doesn't work for you, then you don't have to listen to the meditation part, but yeah, that's what I would recommend for you. So we want to figure out a way to protect your ability to learn new things without you necessarily having to be around that extreme of a situation all the time where you have to like deal with enemies. And for you, you're probably going to go, oh, it's not extreme. It's not a big deal that they do that. But what ends up happening for you is that it does end up being very inconvenient or very troublesome for you. And like, that's, if you're seeing that right now, like it's happening right now. Like, as I'm explaining that, you're justifying it away going, oh no, it's not that big of a deal. But it is, because if you follow that all the way around the cycle, then you go, well, they did this thing, which led to this thing, which created this problem in my life, which really was a big problem, which is why I click on a video like this. It's like, so you're just kind of going, oh, okay, there's not really a problem here. I can just, it's not a big deal. It is a big deal. You don't have to always have that. So yeah, it's probably normalized for you too, where you have other people just going like, that's just how life is. It's not. That's how their life is. That's how some people's life is. But you probably know other people, it's not how their life is. You probably know other people where they get really lucky and good things seem to chase after them, and it just keeps happening. So what if you could use your curiosity for patterns that you do want, rather than just every single type of pattern that's out there? That's what I would suggest you do, is start using that curiosity towards patterns that are aligned with where it is that you want to go. I'm not trying to judge anything, because it's all valid, but for this group, probably the next step for you is to get a little bit more focused with your curiosity, so that you're not just like using enemies to satisfy your curiosity. All right, guys, bear with me. I'm having some mic problems. Here's the metaphor that I want you to think about. So imagine you are in search of diamonds. You start digging. You dig, and then you find diamonds. And then you think to yourself, well, if there are diamonds here, maybe if we dig even deeper, then we'll get more rare diamonds that are even more valuable. So then you dig, you find rare diamonds. Then if you dig, and keep going all the way down, eventually you hit magma, and then it's just fire. And like, that's it. So that at a certain point, continuing to dig, continuing to dive into the depths, like, it just becomes redundant. Like, ayahuasca is another great metaphor for this. It's like, it can be this really expensive thing that opens you up to new possibilities. You go, wow, this is amazing. But if you're doing it every single Tuesday just to get through the week, then like, it's no longer this expansive thing. It's a coping mechanism. It's just not helping you anymore. It's just redundant. So it's no longer giving you that return on your inquiry. So that's what I want to help you with, is I'm going to push you into that space where things are just going to get boring for you if you keep going down that path, if you keep going down those rabbit holes. Instead, you're going to start going down different rabbit holes, ones that are more self-focused, ones that are more about you. And then you'll start to go, oh, like, I could be curious not just about things that have a lot of emotional intensity. You can be curious about things that are beneficial and practical and useful for you. And I think you might like that better. So if that sounds good, now I'll start doing energy healing. Go ahead and take a deep breath in through your nose. Hold at the top. Release through the mouth. And again, into the nose. Hold. Release. You keep breathing and I'll start working. Please make sure you're not driving while you're listening to this. See if there's anything else. Okay, so for this group moving forward, you might feel like disoriented, going like, well, how do I learn things now? The focus is going to come back on you. And if there's some confusion, a lack of clarity, that's a positive thing because you're learning who you are without all of that other baggage going on. And it's a truer form of who you are rather than just like busying yourself with all these other dramatic distractions that personified through enemies. So just be aware of that and know that that may or may not happen for you. If it doesn't, that's great, but just in case. And then for a small group of you, there's like a block around, well, I'm just not that interesting. Like, can I really keep myself entertained that much? I just want to share a thing about mushrooms. In Japan, they had the subway system. They're trying to figure out what was the most efficient way of doing it. They had all these experts that study traffic and figuring all this stuff out. They're all city planners and experts at doing all this stuff. And then somebody just said, well, hold on, let's just recreate that as a small model and let the mushroom figure it out. And the mushroom kind of like weaved its own path and it figured out like the most efficient route possible. And that was mushroom. So you're probably pretty interesting. You just don't know it yet because you've been busied with all this other stuff. So enjoy that process of discovering who you are on deeper and deeper levels. Enjoy digging into you that isn't just like plagued by enemies and drama and intense emotion. So that's what the energy healing helped you with. Be aware that might change some relationships, friendships, and family and all that stuff. If like that's how you guys related and bonded was by watching psychological thrillers. Now you might be like, I'm bored with those. I don't know what else I like. And then that could affect those relationships if like that's all you guys do together. Just be aware of that. Anyway, you're going through a learning process, but now the learning is going to be a lot more productive and less dramatic and intense for you. So that's going to do it for today. If you enjoyed this, please like, comment, share, subscribe, do all the things. Send this to a friend maybe. And yeah, I'll see you next time. Later.